Hey guys, this is Miss Sayer. I'm here in the classroom, and this week I sent home a problem that was a little bit more complicated than normal, and it's not like one we've solved together. So I wanted to make a video to show you how I went about solving this problem. I got some questions from people. I'm just going to show you one way to come up with a solution here. There's lots of different methods you could use, and some folks have already turned in their work, and I'm super impressed by all of the different ways people have brainstormed to map this out. But here's how I went about setting it up. I've got the doc that you guys have that has all the information that you need on it. And then right here on the board, I started to set this problem up. I haven't solved anything, but just to show you how I went about setting it up, I've got all the names of the characters here. So the premise of this problem is that at Disney World, there was an outbreak of a disease, and we're trying to figure out who patient 0, or the index case is. That would be who got this disease first and was the first person to bring it into the park. One thing to keep in mind is that this disease, the transmission, the way that it's spread, is only by person-to-person contact through droplets. So that means that if I'm working with somebody at the Haunted Mansion one week, which would be a really cool job to have, then I could spread it to them, but I'm not going to leave my germs there at the Haunted Mansion for the workers next week to get. Some diseases can spread that way, not this one. So what we've got here are their names. I've got a green minus symbol if that means that they were negative tested for the disease, they never were infected, and a positive red symbol if they did have the disease, they could have been our patient 0. So that's what we're trying to figure out. But it doesn't tell me when they were infected. So that's one of the things we need to solve here. I also have a color code for when people were working together. So week 1, the connections are going to be with this blue marker. So let's go through and start figuring this out. So week 1, I can see who was working together. Cinderella, I'm just going to start at the top and work my way down. Cinderella is working on Soren with Olaf. So I'm going to draw a connection here between Cinderella and Olaf, and we'll talk about what this means in a moment. Ariel was working at the Astro Orbiter with Belle. So Ariel and Belle working together. Simba, we already got Olaf. Simba was working at Splash Mountain with Anna, so Simba and Anna have a connection here. Mickey was working at the Haunted Mansion with the Beast. Mickey and the Beast. Anna was working at Splash Mountain with Simba, so we already got her. Sneezy and Minnie are working together at the castle. Got Sneezy and Minnie. Belle's working at Astro Orbiter with Ariel, so we already got that. Elsa and Goofy are at Space Mountain together. And we already got the Haunted Mansion. We got the Beast already working with Mickey. So this is my web of connections for the first week of who was working together. So they could have possibly infected each other if they were patient 0 and if they came into the park sick at the start of all of this happening. So let's go through and talk about what this means. Cinderella was negative. She was never infected. So that tells me that Olaf can't be patient 0, because if he were patient 0 and he came in sick and he brought this into the park, she would also be negative, or excuse me, she would be positive. She would have the infection. So it can't be Olaf. So I'm going to put an X here to show it's not Olaf. We already know it's not Cinderella. We know it's not Ariel either, because she's negative. So let's go down to Simba. Simba is positive, and he was working with Anna, who's also positive, so they could be potentially suspects for patient 0. So I'm going to underline them. Could be. Mickey obviously can't be patient 0 because he was negative, and Mickey was working with the Beast. So even though the Beast had a positive test and was infected at some point, can't be Beast to be patient 0. Anna we already talked about. Sneezy was working with Minnie. Sneezy was infected at some point in the week, but can't be patient 0 here because Minnie would also have to be positive. So it's not going to be Sneezy. Obviously not Minnie, because she was negative. Belle was working with Ariel, who was negative, so it's not going to be Belle. Elsa and Goofy are both working together, and they're both positive, so they could be our patient 1 or patient 0 suspects. Okay, so before we get any further here, let's talk about what we have here. We have a list of people that could and could not be patient 0. So far, all we have that could be patient 0 are Simba, Anna, Elsa, and Goofy. Everybody else we've ruled out. So to figure out who it is out of that list, we got to follow through with their kind of weekly schedule and see if it could have worked out that way. So I'm going to erase our week 1 lines right now so we can just trace down one person's schedule for the week. I'm going to leave my X's and underlines to show who my suspects are. Okay, so let's follow Goofy and see if he could be patient 0. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll go through one to show you how you can rule it out. So Goofy has a positive, and we think he could possibly be patient 0 because week 1, Goofy was working with Elsa at Space Mountain. And they were both positive, so maybe they're our patient 0. So week 2, I'm going to use pink to show who they were working with week 2. So on week 2, Goofy was working at Splash Mountain with Simba. So I'm going to use pink to show they were working together. I'm also going to follow Elsa now, because if Goofy is my suspect that I'm trying to follow his tracks, I have to follow all of the context to see how this could have spread out through the week. Is this a potential scenario that's going to work out? We're looking to see, is everyone infected getting infected and everyone negative left alone? Because in that case, it might work. So Elsa, week 2, was working at Space Mountain with Belle. So they have a connection here. All right. Week 3, you can see how many people are getting into more contact with each other as we go on through the weeks. It's just like how infections work. Week 3, let's start with Goofy, our main suspect. Week 3, Goofy's working at the Astro Orbiter with Belle. So they're working together. Elsa is working on Soarin' with Simba. Goofy, we just talked about, is working with Belle. And Simba is working on Soarin' with Elsa. We already got that. Okay, so that's all of our contacts. What this tells us, if Goofy was our patient 0, then the question is, how would Olaf have gotten sick? Olaf was tested positive, but throughout those 3 weeks, nobody infected worked with Olaf. How did Anna get sick? How did Sneezy get sick? So Goofy can't be patient 0. It doesn't work out. If I trace through his whole schedule, it doesn't make sense. So I have to rule out Goofy as a suspect. All right, so that still leaves you to ask, what about Elsa, Simba, and Anna? So I'm not going to do those ones for you because I want you to do some of the detective work yourself. This is exactly what epidemiologists do when they're trying to figure out who was patient 0 for real-life infection outbreaks. So hopefully that helps explain a little bit about how to set up this problem. But if you're still having any questions, if you need some help, just let me know. Remember, I've got office hours on Tuesdays, Thursdays from 11 to noon. We can talk via email or on Google Hangouts, whatever you need. All right? Okay, take care, you guys.